Agency kicked off today, guys. There's a lot of dynasty implications that are going to come out of that. We've seen some names move before free agency really opened up. A lot of the trades that happened. Amari Cooper got dealt. But then we've seen a lot of crazy stuff going on today. We're seeing guys like Christian Kirk absolutely get the bag and reset the free agent market for wide receivers. I mean, Jacksonville gave him, 4 years, $84 million. That's absolutely crazy. So we're going to find out. We're going to see what happens with that. Maybe they're surrounding Trevor Lawrence with weapons. We'll find out. Absolutely no way I would have ever given Christian Kirk that type of money. But that's going to open up opportunities for us with the Cardinals. You look at a guy like Antoine Wesley towards the end of the season. He started playing pretty well. I like his tape. That's a guy I'm going to go try to grab where I can. Obviously, there's going to be a market for those type of players. And we're seeing different free agents kind of trickling in here. Superflex leagues, we're starting to see Mitch Trubisky obviously going to Pittsburgh. That's going to have a big impact, especially if Pitt doesn't do anything to address that quarterback spot in the draft. You're looking at Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins. Trubisky's going to have the inside track there this year, I think. And if you're in a Superflex league, we've seen what Roethlisberger did last season with a terrible arm. They have decent decent wide receivers. They've got a really good running back. Pat Freiermuth is a really nice young tight end. If they can invest in that offensive line, Trubisky might have some sneaky upside. Now, everyone's talking about him as the next Ryan Tannehill, and I get that comparison. We'll see if it comes to fruition. The one thing I think everyone is forgetting about Trubisky is how bad was that team in Chicago. Matt Nagy was an absolute train wreck. I know that. You guys know that. And when we're looking at Trubisky, we're looking at a player who was a second pick in the draft, right? Back in, 2017, I think was the draft. You look at what he did in 2018. He was, 66, 67% completion percentage. He went to the Pro Bowl, took the Bears to the playoffs. 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 3,500 yards. He can run the ball. I think he had 450 yards on the ground. Trubisky's kind of a dual threat quarterback. He doesn't get talked like it, but he is. So we'll see what happens in Pittsburgh. If he comes in, locks that job down in a Superflex league, he has a nice QB2 upside. 100%. So I'm on board with Trubisky. Another one of my favorite landing spots was Chase Edmonds with Miami. McDaniel coming over from San Fran. We're going to see if he implements the same type of running game, same type of zone blocking. If that were to happen, Edmonds has a lot of upside. We already know what he can do out of the backfield catching the ball. McDaniel had a nice up-close look at him being in San Francisco the last few years. He goes to Miami, he brings them in, and they're not paying him back up money. They're giving him a 2-year contract for $12 million, half of that being guaranteed. So I think Evans is definitely going to be in play in Miami this season. So there's a lot of stuff going on in free agency. Obviously, to me, the worst signing so far has been Christian Kirk getting that type of money. That was crazy. But speaking of Jacksonville, one player I think you guys should be on the lookout for. Again, this is a player who has immense upside, immense talent. He just can't stay healthy. And that's going to be Evan Ingram. Going to Jacksonville, we've seen towards the end of the season, Dan Arnold, Trevor Lawrence, that connection that they had. Now, if Lawrence is the type of QB that likes to lean on his tight ends, which is looking like it might be, at least from that small sample size, we all know Ingram's always had talent. He just can't stay healthy. But if Ingram puts it together down there, there's some sneaky upside, especially in tight end premium leagues. So, Ty, I seen you just joined in. What's going on, bro? Let me look at that comment. It's been a minute since I've been able to get on and do anything like this. Yeah, Joe, Rondale Moore might jumpstart his career. It's going to be interesting who emerges out of that second receiver group for the Cardinals. I'm guessing they're going to try to address it in the draft. Let's see what else. Yeah, if you got Mitch as your QB3 in a Superflex, that's nice. I can live with that. That's kind of where I have him pegged at right now. QB3 on my rosters. But to me, there's some upside there. Especially, I'm not expecting him to start for the next 4 or 5 seasons, right? This is a 1-year deal for me. A stopgap situation. That's probably what Pittsburgh's looking at, is a stopgap situation. But if I can get him to give me some production for 1 season, I'll take that. Especially Superflex leagues. We're going to need these QBs to really step up this season for us. Injuries are constantly happening. They score the most points, especially in those super flex leagues. If I can get Trubisky to come in and produce even at a steady QB2 spot, that's where Ben was. He was a low end QB2, but I mean, with a terrible, absolutely terrible arm, was getting beat up left and right. And again, you have Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth, Najee Harris. They have nice weapons already around them. Solid defense. If they continue to beef up that line, that could be a really interesting spot for Trubisky. Is it out of the realm that he turns into Tannehill 2.0? It's not. We've seen this playbook before. And as much as I hate the Steelers, you have to trust their evaluation in that front office. They know what they're doing. The thing that's telling to me about Trubisky is they went and got him within the first hour of free agency. That was their guy. That was their target. They went out and got him. There was quite a few of those retread quarterbacks that were going to be on the board. The Teddy Bridgewaters, Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, those type of players. They went and got Trubisky. So we still haven't seen the contract. We know it's a 2-year deal. It's going to be interesting to see what he got paid. The Saints trying to get Deshaun. Yeah, I did read that the Saints trying to get Deshaun. So Watson obviously has only agreed at this point, from what I'm understanding, to speak with the Saints and the Panthers. And I think that list is going to expand, right? I thought Tampa was going to be a really good, at least outside chance for him before Brady came back. But to me, if Watson lands in New Orleans, if he lands in Carolina, you got to look at players like Michael Thomas, right? DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, those type of players you have to go and try to absolutely grab right now. You guys know I'm always a big fan of DJ Moore. I think he's an absolute stud. He's undervalued. That's a player I'd be looking to go grab. Same with Terrace Marshall. Maybe Robbie Anderson. Go get those peripheral guys from those teams, especially if you can get them out of the cheap right now. Deontay Harris, players like that. Because if he ends up going to if he ends up going to the Saints or Carolina, whoever his weapons are going to absolutely take a huge bump up in value. And we're going to see what happens in terms of just those two teams. I know the Colts got shut down today from being able to talk to Deshaun Watson. I think that has more to do with them being an AFC South team. I don't think they're willing to trade within division. And that makes sense. You don't want to trade a stud franchise quarterback within division and let him wreak havoc 2 times a year for the next 10, 15 years. You don't want to do that. So I completely understand that. But I think there's going to be other AFC teams coming to the forefront here soon. We've seen what happened with Pittsburgh, with Trubisky. Does that take them out of the running? It shouldn't. The Browns have been the dark horse team that's been floating around for Deshaun Watson, and they have a lot of draft capital that they can move this season and next season to get Watson if they so desire. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Selfishly, me being a Browns fan, I'm not even really worried about that. My fantasy purposes, I got so much stock of DJ Moore, I'm hoping that's where he goes, because DJ Moore will go to the moon if Deshaun Watson lands in Carolina. Absolutely to the moon. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm real curious about that. Yeah. See, I've definitely seen the Deshaun Watson talk. I see what's going on with it. We'll find out. Joe, what do you got here? So Joe's saying Mitch has 1 to 2 years to prove it. I agree with that, Joe. I definitely think he has 1 to 2 years to prove it. And I do think, if Mitch Trubisky comes and plays well this season in Pittsburgh, let's say they do heavily invest in that offensive line, and they go out and get some more free agents, so on and so forth, to beef up that line. If he comes out and plays really well this year, they're going to have a decision to make, whether extend him for another season or so. But he's going to it's a proven type deal for him. And this is probably his last chance to be a starter in the league. And he probably knows that. Brian Daboll has, done some great work with quarterbacks. And that's another thing about Trubisky that has me a little bit excited. Daboll has done great work with QBs. And obviously there was talk that Daboll wanted him with the Giants and so on and so forth. And that was kind of the betting favorite for Trubisky, was the Giants. When that didn't happen, we didn't hear Pitt at all. It was kind of a under the radar thing. And I had mentioned it before with Pittsburgh with him. And then they came out of nowhere and snapped him up from the Giants. I don't know, guys. I'm telling you, if you can get Trubisky on the cheap right now, I'm not saying go out and invest a first-round pick, second, early second, but if you can get him for a back-end second, early third, that might be a risk worth taking, especially in our super flex leagues. Especially for this season, having that type of ability on the ground, through the air, having better weapons, having a better supporting cast around him. He's always been Before last season, backing up Allen, he was with a dysfunctional ass Ryan Nagy, who was absolutely terrible. Let's see what else in the comments. What's up, Frank? Just seeing you on here. How you doing? All right, Ty. So, any higher or lower on guys? So, Ty, if we're talking in the Superflex, and I'm pretty sure we're talking Superflex for you, I have my top 5 for the rookie draft. Um, I have that stuff up on Patreon. I'm gonna do a video on it. But for sure, to me, I still like Traylon Burks as my 1-1. I like Burks a lot. I think his upside is immense. I think he's going to be a AJ Brown type receiver, Debo Samuel type receiver. That to me, his type of tenacity, and his measurables were right there. He's 6'2", 225. Give me Burks right there at that point. Brees Hall's moved up for me. I got Brees Hall pegged at 2. Malik Willis, I think it's going to be the first QB off the board, especially in the Superflex draft. We're probably grabbing him at 3. And if he has real draft stock invested in him, you're not going to get him outside that top 3. And to me, he's a player that you're going to have to sit and wait on. You can't expect him to come in day one and just absolutely blow up. So that's a player, though, with his background, transfer from Auburn. He's an absolute monster on the ground. He's got a cannon for an arm. If he gets into the right situation, sky is going to be the limit. A lot of the stuff we heard about Lamar Jackson pre-draft, we're hearing the same stuff about Willis. And Lamar's gotten better in the pocket, right? He's gotten better there, gotten better throwing the ball. Willis, to me, he needs to go to the right situation, but if it happens, sky's going to be the limit for him. Still have Spiller in my top. I know he didn't test well at the combine. He's saying he had an injury. We'll see what happens with his pro day, but I just like Spiller's tape too much. And then right now, 5 I've gone back and forth on between London and Garrett Wilson. I'm going to give Wilson the nod right now, but Wilson to me is a boomer bust prospect. Going up and making a catch and straight line speed, like he has all that, but what's going on with his route running, footwork? Like, can he clean that up? That's going to be the biggest issue for Wilson to me. If he does, legit wide receiver 1. But I'm drafting Wilson as a wide receiver 2 and hoping for our wide receiver 1 pop-off weeks. That's kind of where I'm at with him. Go back to the chat. Yeah, I'm a big Burks fan. So you drafted Watson in a 2-keeper auction last year for $1 and kept him on my bench all year. I mean, you did good. You grabbed him when he was absolutely at his lowest. You've been sitting on him. And to me, you're going to reap those rewards this season. He's probably going to get some type of suspension, Watson. I don't think he's going to get scot-free. Obviously, no criminal charges, which is great for him. But there was 22 allegations made. It can't all just be smoke and mirrors. He's going to get some type of penalty from the league, whether that's 4 games, 6 games, 8 games. He'll obviously appeal that. Whatever it turns out to be, he's going to try to get that docked down. If it's 6, he might try to get to 3 or 4, so on and so forth. But the fact that you picked him up in an auction league for $1 last season, you sat on him, you did your homework, you were patient, you're going to reap the rewards this season, which is good for you. Let's see what else. I see Chris in here. What's going on, Chris? Seeing a bigger gap between Hall and Spiller develop. There's a gap, and I think that gap is only there based on Spiller not testing well at the combine. Again, he's saying he was hurt. We'll find out after his pro day. Like his measurables really factor up and measure up to what his workout is going to be. So, you look at Spiller, he's got that size speed combo. He can catch the ball in the backfield. I'm not overly worried. We'll see what happens. Again, if his pro day's bad, then yeah, we're going to be right there. But I think right now we have that prisoner of the moment. Brees Hall came out, tested amazing. He looks great, but if Spiller backs that up come pro day, I think he's going to be fine. Let's see what else we got. Ohio State guy, love me some Wilson. Yeah, I mean, I like Wilson a lot. And Joe's got Wilson as his wide receiver 1 too. I like Olave a lot too. I think Olave is going to be slept on. I think he's going to be one of those players that, was outshined in college, obviously, but is still a really good player in his own right. And I think he's probably going to end up being a better pro than he was a college receiver, even though he was really productive. I really do think that we're going to see the best out of Olave, especially gets into the right system. I like him a lot. My biggest fades, biggest targets. So, Chris, to me, the biggest fade right now after free agency. I mean, you can't even like really call it a fade because I wasn't like overly high on the player. But to me, like, I just don't think that Christian Kirk is ever going to live up to that contract. Like he was a solid wide receiver too, and he's being paid like a top 5 or 6 receiver. And to me, like that's a guy. If anybody in your league is buying the hype on Christian Kirk getting linked up with Trevor Lawrence with that contract, I mean that's a lot of pressure to live up to, man. He got paid, and to me, I can't move off of that. Like that's a player that I'm gonna have to just, if I have him, anybody who wants to bite, he's gone. Lawrence is a great prospect, but I still don't believe in that team, that offense. It's a dysfunctional franchise. They're going to have to prove it to me. And going out and making these same silly-ass moves that they always make, I can't get down with that. Lockett's definitely a fade, Joe, based on Wilson being there. Stock up is obviously what's going on in Denver to me. Like, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, you go from Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater to Russell Wilson. I mean, they woke up one morning and hit the absolute lottery. So, to me, that's the biggest stock up for the offseason in terms of skill guys that were not directly involved in free agency. Getting Russell Wilson to that team. We've been waiting for Cortland Sutton to have a real quarterback for a while. We've seen glimpses of it. He's been high upside. He got hurt. I think getting Russell Wilson, to me, he's the one to own in that offense moving forward. But I like Jeudy a lot too. And we've seen Russ be able to support 2 high-end receivers. So those guys, and don't count out Tim Patrick. I like Patrick a lot. A player that got dropped today that I've mentioned to you guys before that I would go grab right now because he's probably dirt cheap is Jarvis Landry. Landry was hurt last year, had a terrible hip injury, and to me, that's a player. If Landry gets to the right team, I can guarantee you, whichever team he goes to, he's going to earn the trust and confidence of his quarterback immediately. Landry is a gamer. He runs great routes, has great hands. That's a player to me that his value is so low right now. Getting cut was a great thing for him that I'm grabbing him immediately. If you can grab him on the cheap, do it. Michael Gallup is another. Obviously, with Amari Cooper getting traded to the Browns, Gallup re-signs with Dallas. He has the clear path to that wide receiver 2 role. We've seen in the past what that's looked like. Gallup is a nice player to go grab right now. He really is. Obviously, with Dallas, they brought, they're going to have Lamb obviously going to that wide receiver 1 spot, and that's another player to be on the lookout for. Lamb's numbers were down a little bit last season. Like, we all thought he was going to take that next step, right? We all thought 100% Lamb's going to be a top 3, top 4, top 5 receiver. That didn't happen. He was, really for most weeks, he wasn't even a legit wide receiver 1 most weeks. He was like a wide receiver 2. And then now losing Cooper, those type of target share that's going to increase for CeeDee Lamb, that's a guy to go grab too to me. Like, obviously it's going to cost you a lot, but if he's going to do it, he's going to do it this year. And that's ascending to that elite every single week, number 1 receiver, you plug and play 20, 25 points. And I believe that's what's going to happen for him. I'm really high on Lamb. I mentioned earlier, I like Chase Edmonds this year in that landing spot. McDaniels had a chance to look at him for the last few years. He's great out of the backfield. He put up great numbers, rushing the ball between tackles last year. So there's been a lot. Let me go back to the comments here. They keep coming in. Yeah, Joe. I mean, imagine that, Joe. Imagine if Landry does end up with KC. And like you say, that intermediate route tree in KC. Landry could absolutely explode. Absolutely explode. You own Diggs and Watson. If Watson goes to Saints, is it worth it to swap Diggs for MT straight up for this? Yeah, because to me, Diggs and Thomas are kind of in that same boat, right? They're both older receivers. They've both been great. Thomas has been having injury issues, obviously, for the last few years. But if you have Watson and you're able to stack those points, that's one of the most underrated things in fantasy football is that ability to stack your points. If you can pair your number 1 QB with an elite target on their team, as long as they have a decent to good week, you're going to have monster games, right? So I've seen leagues where guys back in the day, remember with Brady and Wes Welker and Gronk. And like I would see teams that's all they had. They had those three players and they had shit the rest of the offense and they absolutely dominated just based on those stacking. So I am a proponent of that. I do like stacking my points. So if you got Diggs and you can move him for Thomas, I might do that because to me, Diggs is going to take a step back anyway this season. His numbers are already starting to trend like that. His points per target were already trending that way. Where do I think Juju will sign? I'm interested to see where Juju goes because Juju, to me, he's kind of like that enigma. We've seen him put up a legit wide receiver one season, right? And we've also seen him absolutely fall off. But I think Juju's issue is more of a product of Ben and his inability to move the ball. So to me, Juju getting in the right spot, his value could skyrocket as well. And we just mentioned KC. KC to me is going to upgrade receiver this offseason one way or the other. I don't see them going into the season with McCole Hardman as wide receiver 2. Right? So to me, that could be a target. Juju, KC, we've already mentioned Jarvis Landry possibly to KC. Teams like that, it's going to be a team that's already competitive, I think, for Juju. I don't think he's going to go to a rebuilding situation. He knows that he needs to reestablish his value. He took that 1-year deal last year with Pittsburgh. He's probably going to end up taking another 1-year deal, but I think that's going to be with a contender. So I would love to see Juju with a KC. Let's think who else could really use an upgrade at receiver that's a contender. I mean, Baltimore to me, like, you've got Marquise Brown, you've got Bateman, but Bateman really didn't pop off. We'll see what happens with that. I can see Juju staying in division. Baltimore has a tendency to do that, to where they grab players from division rivals. So that wouldn't shock me. And they were flirting with Antonio Brown earlier this offseason before he absolutely lost his mind. So, we'll see. But to me, Juju's a guy, again, kind of like the same mode as Landry, someone who's proven to be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy multiple times. Go grab him on the cheap. If he lands in a great spot, his value is absolutely explode compared to where it's at right now. Go back to the chat. Yeah, Ty, we did talk about Judy before, man. And we got lucky. Like, we got lucky with Russ going there, man. But yeah, I mean, what I'm saying with Juju is we've seen Juju put up fantasy wide receiver 1 numbers. I'm not saying he's a wide receiver 1, but in the right system, he has put up those numbers. Same thing with Jarvis Landry. Landry's not a wide receiver 1, but 2 out of the last 5 or 6 years, Landry's been a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, in PPR leagues. Obviously system is important, quarterback's important, but those are the type of players that get into the right spot. They're financially them right now. Like they're dirt cheap right now. Juju in Buffalo would be an interesting spot. That would be an interesting spot. That would absolutely kill Gabriel Davis's value if he goes to Buffalo. So all of our Gabe Davis owners and truthers, me being one of them, we would not be happy with that. But that would be an interesting spot. Buffalo, obviously, and I think that has to do with Diggs is getting a little bit older. His production started to lag a little bit last year. Davis has turned into a nice red zone threat. I can see it. And is the way the AFC is going, think about the quarterbacks in the AFC, guys. You got Allen, Mahomes, Russ Wilson now, Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I mean, it is absolutely stacked. Right now, Deshaun Watson, like, it is absolutely stacked, the QB situation. I think someone's going to take a chance on Marlon Mack. I think Marlon Mack will end up in a spot. We've seen him pre-JT with the Colts. Mack was a solid RB2 in fantasy, right? He did that, I think, back-to-back seasons. So, to me, Mack is definitely going to get a chance this season. Someone's going to sniff around. Who that might be, I'm not sure right now. Like, I didn't expect the Dolphins to go and grab Chase Edmonds, right? So we'll see what happens with that in terms of like the running back and how that stuff shakes out. But I do think Mack is going to get some type of opportunity to compete for a role with the team. He's probably going to be an RB by committee, but if he gets that early down, first, second down work, which is, his forte, he could put up sneaky numbers. Let's see. Buffalo did resign Isaiah McKenzie, Joe. I seen that they gave him a 2-year deal. which was interesting. Washington needs RBs. So, Chris, I'm guessing you're not a fan of Antonio Gibson. Is that what you're saying? Because I'm a huge fan of Gibson. He's been playing running back for like 2 seasons, 3 seasons, whatever it is. I've said it before. The dude played with a stress fracture in his shin all season and did not miss a game. I'll take that all day. Give me that type of running back who's going to show up and play out. Yeah, all they have is Gibson. We'll find out. They have Patterson too. I think they like Patterson a lot, So we'll find out with that. I mean, to me, Gibson, Patterson, I don't know if they're going to bring somebody else into that mix. Yeah, we'll find. I mean, and I'm responding to Chris here. I don't know if you guys can see the comment. Give some of the love between the 20s. I get all that. I just think they like Patterson. We'll find out though. And then Gibson, I think bringing in Mac might actually set Gibson back a little bit because that's what he needs to work on. He needs to work on that in between, like between the 20 type stuff. Like he's still really young into his RB career. So I don't know if they really want to take those type of reps from him. And we've seen towards the end of the season where they were really willing and able to just kind of unleash him. He started getting a lot of touches on the ground. Let's see. How big is the hit to Deontay with Mitch signing, if any? I mean, are we really convinced that Trubisky's going to be any worse than what Ben Roethlisberger has been for the last couple seasons? Because I'm not. I mean, Ben has been really bad. He's been a statue back there. Can't move the pocket. Arm is absolutely shot. And Trubisky's not a great deep ball thrower anyways. So I really don't see it being too much. I think that's more of a product of that system more than anything else. So I don't see that as a huge hit to Deontay. Probably more so Claypool than anything else. You got to think back to 2018. Trubisky's best season. Covered a little bit earlier. That was with the Bears, obviously his second year in the league. He had a 66% completion percentage, so pretty good. He threw for like 3,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Ran the ball 70 times, over 400 yards, had a couple of TDs on the ground, so he has the ability to move. But you look at his number one receiver that year, it wasn't Robinson, it was Taylor Gabriel. So, a small slot type guy. So we'll find out. I don't think it's going to impact Johnson as much as we're thinking it is. Robinson was hurt that year, so he didn't. I think he played like 12 games. He got hurt, but his numbers were down. And I think if you averaged it out over 16 games, he would have put up like 70 receptions for exactly 1,000 yards and like 5 touchdowns. So I don't know. I mean, to me, Claypool's probably the guy that takes a hit, honestly, with the Trubisky signing. If I'm picking one between Claypool or Deontay, I'm gonna have to fade Claypool a little bit. And that sucks for me because I was hoping for a big breakout for Claypool. Mac fits the Jets. Well, I mean, do they want to stunt Carter? That's the thing. Carter, another young running back. He's obviously played in the committee before with Javonte Williams. But with these teams, do you want to stunt that young running back and that growth? They need all the reps they can possibly get. So I think Mac fits a lot of teams well for what he brings in his skill set. He's not great, but he's a solid first, second down back. He's good in the goal line. He's proven that. He's got a nose for the end zone. He just can't catch the ball, right? So if you can get Mac lined up in a situation like Miami's a great example, okay? Edmonds, we know, was a great 3-down back, right? Not 3-down back, but a receiving back. 3rd-down back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, he was really good this past season, carrying, when he actually had chances to touch the ball. He averaged 5.5 yards a carry. But if you can get Mac paired up with Edmonds down in Miami and give Mac first and second down work and then let Edmonds clean up on 3rd down, that could be a scenario. The issue with that is, to me, how much money they paid Edmonds. I mean, they gave him $6 million a year, and they're guaranteeing. I mean, it's pretty much a 1-year deal, 1-year, $6 million contract. That's still pretty substantial for Chase Edmonds. I didn't think he was going to get that much money. So, but Mac does fit a lot of teams. A lot of teams are going to use quality depth at running back. And we're starting to see that across the board. More and more teams are going to 2 RBs, 3 RBs. That's just the way this is. So you can literally take a look at any roster in the NFL. Do they have 2 running backs? If the answer is no, Mac probably has a chance to fit them. And that's the long and the short of it with him. He's proven it. He's been a solid RB2 in fantasy. Multiple seasons. That's a guy, if I can grab him right now, especially on the cheap, I'm doing it. But these are players we probably should have been grabbing weeks ago, months ago, before free agency even hit. And now we're kind of up against it. And you're kind of scouring the waiver wire, hoping and praying you can grab someone before they go somewhere else. Like Russell Gage is another one. He's a free agent. We'll see what happens with Russell Gage. He started playing a lot last year after Ridley, right? And we'll see. Does Atlanta bring him back? Does he find himself somewhere else? And speaking of Ridley, I took my chance. I drafted him. This was in the Dynasty League Dynamo Startup Dynasty Draft. He was the 20th receiver off the board. And damn it, wouldn't it be my luck that his ass is out here gambling. But the fantasy gods rewarded me that following day. And that's when Russ got traded to Denver. And I had drafted Cortland Sutton in the 11th round. So it kind of worked out for me in the end. We just had something else come in. Yep. Absolutely buying in on Chark right now. That's a great thought. Chark is a player. Again, we have seen Chark have a nice season, right? Like he's had that nice breakout season. What year was that? Like 2019, whatever the hell it was. Came out of nowhere. He did second round draft capital. Had a really good season. Been dealing with injuries and terrible quarterback play and all that stuff ever since. He's another player, though. If he goes into a nice spot on a cheap contract, I mean, sky could be the limit. DJ Chark, to me, he's always had talent. He's one of those guys you can watch him play, and you can see that he's got talent for whatever reason, just hasn't clicked. So that's one I would definitely be going and grab. And the way the wide receiver market's going right now, it's drying up pretty quick. Like we see Cedric Wilson go. And what did he get? He got like a 3-year deal, $24 million, something like that. Anybody who knows off the top of their head, drop it in the chat for me. These receivers are starting to get scooped up pretty quick. And you look at a Chark, after A-Rob, I mean, who's the next guy up? It's probably going to be Chark or Landry at this point. So they're going fast. I think we're going to start to see what happens when we have more clarity on Deshaun Watson. I really do. Like if there's a team who comes in towards the end of this negotiation and they swoop in and they grab Watson, I would not be shocked to see that as a package deal with Robinson. I really wouldn't. Yeah, Joe, I know he got 3 years. I don't know how much he got, though. I know it was 23, 24, something like that. He got paid. I hope he can bounce back, too. I like Chark, man. Chark's one of those guys, he's like a dart throw for me. If I can grab him in a deal as a throw-in, he's someone I'm going to grab because we've seen him do it before. I always value that. Players that we've seen had production before. Like, you can't discount that. We've seen him go out and actually play well with a terrible offense, no talent around him. That, to me, that says something. Unfortunately for him, he's not been able to build off of that. But again, free agency, situations change. You always draft for talent, not the situation. Maybe this is the time for Chark. Maybe he lands in a good spot and goes to a team that can utilize him better. It's possible. And if it happens, this is a guy who's been sitting and getting traded for, late 3rd round picks, 4th round picks last season. After the injury, you could have got him super cheap. So Chark's a guy to definitely be paying attention to. Another player to pay attention to as the offseason goes on is who develops into the 3rd wide receiver in Dallas. And I'm going to say that because we've seen Cedric Wilson this season, right? As the 3rd wide receiver, because we're talking about him right now, have production. That offense, they like to spread the ball around. And I'm not sure. We'll see how it plays out. Who shakes into that number 3 spot. But to me, that's a player, especially in deep leagues. You're in a 14, 16 team league. You need to focus on who that 3rd wide receiver ends up being in Dallas. For those deep leagues, that player is going to have value. We'll find out who it might be. Brown probably has an inside track right now. If that doesn't shake out, they drafted somebody in the draft, third, fourth, fifth round. Pay attention to that player in your rookie drafts. That's one little bit of advice I'm going to give you guys right now. That position, for whatever reason, has turned out to be a fantasy producer. And that player's one injury away between Lamb and Gallup. And Gallup has an injury history from ascending right into a wide receiver 2 role with Dallas. And we've seen that type of production. So that's something I have circled for my leagues. I'm going to pay attention closely to who ends up with that third wide receiver spot in Dallas. For sure. Let's see what else. Yep, I think that is right, Joe. I think $24 million for Cedric Wilson with Miami over the 3 years. I mean, again, this is a guy, another player who I like that re-signed with his team. And I'm going to say this player if you play in leagues that award kick return, punt return, yardage points, right? So my leagues, it's normally a tenth of a point for every 10 yards in terms of kick return to punt return. And that's Braxton Burials. I mean, to me, if you have a player who can, and this is something that gets undervalued and people don't think about enough, especially in those kickoff return, punt return leagues. Burrios, Deontay Harris, wide receivers, slot guys, but they get 7, 8, 9, 10 points a week based on kick return, punt return yards. Now, this is something I always do. This is one of my strategies that, again, if you play in a similar league, you have to start paying attention to. Those players have a really solid floor, right? 7, 8, 9 points just based on return yardage. Anything they do in the receiving game is absolute gravy. Absolute gravy. And if you're playing in a PPR league, if they get 3, 4 receptions for 50 yards, you're closing in on a 20-point week from a guy who, is an afterthought in most leagues. The Harrises, the Braxton Burials, and Burrios has got a 2-year deal. So to me, grab those players. Yeah, Chris, the wide receiver 3 in Dallas, man, I'm telling you, that position has always produced. Always produced. And then you see what Gallup, again, has that injury history. Like, whoever emerges as that wide receiver 3 in Dallas, that's a guy you need to circle and just, once he becomes available, if it's a draft pick, like if they take a receiver 3rd, 4th, 5th round, that's someone in our rookie drafts we need to be targeting, right? And you're probably gonna be able to, you could probably get that player, especially if it's a 3rd, 4th, 5th round receiver, mid 3rd, early 4th. But that's a player to target. That 3rd wide receiver in Dallas produces. And if you're in those deep leagues, man, 14, 16 team leagues, that comes in handy. And that's also why I'm saying if you're in those deep leagues that does reward the kick return points, you have to pay attention to this stuff. Braxton Burials re-signed with the Jets. We know he's got that kick return job locked down, right? They started turning him to a little gadget player towards the end of the season. He started getting receptions. He was running the ball, all that stuff. If that continues, coupled with the return yardage points that he's going to get you, he's going to be a sneaky player. He's going to be a sneaky wide receiver 3. I mean, it is what it is. Like, the numbers are going to back that up based on those kick return points and punt return points. If he's got a base of 7, 8 points just from that, like I said, 3, 4 receptions for 50 yards, in a PPR league, we're already talking about a 17, 18-point week. And this is for a player that you're probably going to be able to draft in a startup, towards the end of the draft or free agency, both of them. So those are just some guys that I'm interested in. And we talk about Harris 1 second with Deshaun Watson. If Watson does go to the Saints, I mean, Harris is why he's going to, he could be one of those sneaky guys. Like, that's a guy I'm probably going to grab right now with the off chance that Watson does go there. We know what Thomas is going to do, right? If he's healthy. Troutman's another guy to go grab. Like, any of these teams linked up right now with Watson, any of their players that are sitting on waivers and free agency, go grab them right now. They're free, sitting there, just waiting for you to grab them. Go grab them right now. Tight ends, receivers, any of that. You got to go lock that stuff down. We're talking about the Deontay Harris. Like, Callaway's not going to be a free agent. Traquan Smith. Traquan Smith is a guy. He's a free agent right now. I don't believe he signed. If he signed, someone correct me. I didn't remember seeing his name. But if he didn't sign, he's got history with the Saints. If Watson gets traded there and Smith goes back, that's another guy. These are players to go grab, stash them. Let's see what happens with this sweepstakes. Because wherever Watson goes, he is going to rise the tides for every single skill player on that team. I don't care who it is. Selfishly, I keep saying this, I want him to go to the Panthers because I want DJ Moore to have a legit quarterback for once in his career. Moore has had absolute hot dog shit for 4 years. Give DJ Moore Deshaun Watson and watch him blow up. Top 5, top 6 receiver. And the thing about Carolina, out of everyone who's been involved with this, Carolina has been the most consistent team linked to Deshaun Watson, dating back to last season. Their management group, ownership group, they are on board with Deshaun Watson. And I think if he does get dealt, I think he's willing to. I think it's going to be the Carolina. To me, they have to be the favorite. They have been the most consistent since last year. So to me, grab your shares right now of Panthers players. You know, Tommy Tremble, young tight end, DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, hell, even Robbie Anderson right now. Go grab them. Absolutely go grab them. So it's going to be a wild, wild offseason, man. We're seeing so many trades. I don't think I've ever seen this many trades in the NFL. Like, players are getting moved left and right. It's been absolutely crazy. It's been a madhouse. So I think we're just getting started. I think there's going to be some big moves. Like, when's the last offseason? Think about this. To where you can say legitimate franchise quarterbacks, multiple, got traded. We've already seen Russ, and we know Watson's coming. Like, it just doesn't happen. Excuse me. You know, we've seen Wentz obviously get dealt. He's not a franchise quarterback, but he got dealt. Garoppolo's going to get dealt. It's crazy. The quarterback musical chairs that's going on right now. So many QBs are floating all over the place. Like, I can't recall an offseason like this right off the bat. Tom Brady pulling a damn Heckle and Jai or whatever the hell it's called. Dr. Heckle, Mr. Jai, whatever the hell his name was. You retire and then 40 days later you say, you know what, I changed my mind. Come on, Brady. Come on. And whoever drafted, if you've had a startup draft and you took Brady, golf clap to you. Golf clap to you. So, let's see what else. Brady's wrecking people's offseason, man. Absolutely. Wrecking people's off seasons. But that's good for Tampa because they were hurting. They were looking like they were going to enter the Baker Mayfield sweepstakes. That was a rumor coming out that Tampa was interested in Baker. That'd have been a hell of a drop off from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield. One hell of a drop off. So, yeah, we're going to find out. That's another thing I find to be interesting, though. Speaking of Baker, and speaking of the Browns and Deshaun Watson, Baker getting back to Texas, I think would be interesting. I think that would be interesting. Yeah, he's channeling his inner Favre. Brady's almost like a damn WWE wrestler at this point. Like, he retired and then, you know, WrestleMania rolls around and they're dusting his ass off. That's what Brady reminded me of. You know, seeing that news come out that he was coming back. And you kind of figured he was going to come back. Like, there was reports right after he retired. I think it was Gronk who was talking about it. Like, yeah, I can see him sitting out maybe a year, and then he's going to miss the game, and he'll be back. He made it 40 days. He's going to be 45 years old this season playing football. Legitimately, he might play till he's 50. He might just do it. And it's going to be absolutely crazy. I'm not convinced that this is his last year now. I think we're going to be dealing with this every single year with Brady. Is he going to play? Is he not? And the thing is, he's so damn good that, like, no matter what, teams are going to be lining up waiting for him to make his decision. It's crazy. And you can see, like, at the moment that Tampa started sniffing around other quarterbacks, like they were linked to Baker for a day, and then they were linked to Deshaun Watson, the moment that started happening, Brady said, hell no, I'm back. Because he couldn't let it go. You know, and they're bringing the team back. They got Godwin tagged. Like, it's crazy. You know, we haven't even talked about Rodgers going back to Green Bay. Rodgers back in Green Bay. Devontae got tagged. He's unhappy. We knew he was going to be pissed off getting tagged. He's saying he's not going to play for the franchise tag. They just gave Rodgers, like, what, a $200 million contract over 4 seasons? They're going to have to pay Adams, and Adams knows it. He's linked to Rodgers in perpetuity, whatever the hell you want to call it. Can't talk tonight. So that's going to happen. That's another team. Like, Amari Rodgers, does he stand out this year? Does he pop off finally? Second year. Whenever a rookie receiver has that bad of a year, man, that's such a red flag for me. You know, like he did absolutely nothing. But Lazard's a free agent. We'll find out. They're not going to be able to keep, Lazard if he wants decent money with paying Rodgers what they did. They're going to have to pay Devontae Adams. Maybe Rodgers, and I'm talking about Amari. Maybe Amari Rodgers has a chance. He had a terrible rookie season, but he's got some draft capital invested in him. We'll find out. Let's go back to the chat, see if I missed anything. Yeah, it's WrestleMania Brady. Absolutely WrestleMania Brady. I mean, think about it. He just pulled an Undertaker on all of us. Brady's the new Undertaker. That dude was dead and gone. We all thought that. This is it. Riding off into the sunset. He's played in the league for like 87 years. He's won like 10 Super Bowls, whatever the hell it is at this point. He's gone. He's going to retire, living down in Florida, has a young family, all of that. 40 days later, he's back. You couldn't script this thing any different. This is WWE, what Brady's pulling right now. Tell me it's not a damn storyline. 100%. So, it's going to be interesting though, guys. It really is. We'll see how this stuff shakes out. There's a lot of money being tossed around. And the one thing I think everyone should focus on right now, okay? This is something that not a lot of people talk about, but I pay attention to it every offseason. Don't worry about the skill guys, right? Those are the big names, and we see all that stuff. That goes all over social media, ESPN, all of that. They talk about the skill guys, receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, the big money contracts to the cornerbacks, all of that stuff. We hear about that left and right. Pay attention to the offensive line signings this season. Pay attention to the teams that lose their offensive linemen. Pay attention to the teams that build up their offensive line, because that's going to have such huge impacts on our teams in the offseason. And this is something that no one talks about. If you see a team like Pittsburgh is a great example, has had a terrible offensive line. But if Pittsburgh goes out and makes big upgrades on that line and addresses that position, everything else is going to benefit, including Trubisky, Najee Harris, and their receivers. Period. Or if you have a team like, I use the Browns as the perfect example, one of the best offensive lines in the league. They're not losing anyone this year, right? But if the Browns had lost 2 starters on the offensive line, that whole offense, as bad as it was last year, would be even worse. You wouldn't be seeing a Nick Chubb or a Kareem Hunt where they shouldn't be drafted where they're drafted at once those teams start to lose their offensive line. You guys have to pay attention to that. That's going to make a huge impact, especially on run games, quarterbacks, a huge impact. Pay attention to the offensive line. Watch the draft. Like, we're looking at a team like Cincinnati. Like, Cincinnati's going to have to, I know they've already started. They've made a couple of additions today to that offensive line. It's not enough. They need to really beef that thing up. That offensive line is absolutely terrible. And if they continue to address it, Cincinnati, man, it's going to be sky's the limit for everybody on that team. But if you start to see these squads where they're losing legitimate Pro Bowl players on the line, you're going to have to fade their skill guys just a little bit. And this is something that no one really talks about. You have to pay attention to that. Let me go back to the chats. Joe, you think Giselle kicked him out of the house? That's possible. Let's see. Yeah, man, the AFC quarterback situation is absolutely crazy. It really is. And even like the young players that are in the league, like Mac Jones played well last year. We all believe in Trevor Lawrence at some point. Even if we don't right now, we all did before the draft. Like, the he has generational talent. Like, we can't dispute that. But you look at the big guns, man. The Burrios, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson. It's just absolutely loaded. It is stacked. I can't remember a conference having like that many great young quarterbacks, and they're all still really young. That's the scary part about it. Josh Allen, like, it is going to be a dogfight in the AFC for the next 6, 7, 8 years. Like, if you're in the AFC, if you're a team in the AFC and you don't have a legit franchise quarterback, good luck. That's all I can say to you. Everything else on your team better be damn near perfect. You better have a top 5 defense and an amazing running game. Like, and if you don't have that, you have no chance. The AFC is absolutely loaded with quarterbacks. It's crazy. It's almost sickening. So that's kind of where we're at, and we're gonna see what happens. The rest of the way come off season. The draft is coming up real soon. It'll be next month. I think we're gonna see more trades. I think teams right now, like you see the Saints, and this is why I don't really believe that Watson's gonna go to the Saints. Like, what were they, like $70-80 million over the cap a couple weeks ago? Where the hell, like, they have to get 70 million off the books, right? Just to get to the break-even point. Where are they going to find another 40 to keep him? Come on. So Connor being the main back. I'm glad you brought Connor up. I do think Connor is going to be a TD regression candidate. I just don't see how he can repeat those numbers. But what I'll say about that backfield is that second RB, that receiving back, the Eno Benjamin, that's been the trendy name. We'll see if he ends up sticking with that job or if they address it. They could address it in free agency still, maybe somebody in the draft. Whoever's going to fill that role that Chase Edmonds just left behind, the first half of the season when they were splitting touches, Edmonds was a back-end RB2. What I can say about Connor, he's had some injury history. He had a great season. I'm still not buying that hype. Like, that's a tall order to fill. Huge shoes to fill, having that many touchdowns on the ground. I don't see that happening again. And to me, if anyone's still buying that hype, like if you held on to him in the offseason hoping that he resigned in Arizona, a window just opened for you. A window to trade him now for probably peak value, because teams are going to say, oh yeah, he's back in Arizona. They gave him a 3-year contract. They're committed to him. All of that's true. Will he put up those same TD numbers? I don't see it. So to me, anyone who's still buying that, this is probably your last window unless he absolutely explodes out of the gate, right? Like, aside from the touchdown numbers, his metrics across the board last year, Connor, were absolutely terrible. He played like hot ass. He was pulling up those TD numbers, though. That was the main difference for him. And obviously, TDs are king for us in fantasy football. Scoring all those touchdowns, I mean, he won leagues. But if you look at his real advanced numbers on the ground, he was terrible. So to me, I'm moving on. If you get somebody who can buy right now, based on the fact that he went back to Arizona, I would cash in. Let's see what else. Yeah, so Joe's kind of saying the same thing. This year's Tanyan. I do think a window just opened for you, though. And if you held him all off season, hoping that this happened, congratulations. Now you have a big choice to make. This is your moment to shine. Either you're going to hold on, hang fast, like, hey, I believe in this guy, or you're going to take opportunity that just opened up for you, which is this window of him returning to Arizona, and you're going to jump right through it. To me, I'm jumping through that damn thing, and I'm not looking back. Period. Let's see if there's anything else in the chat. I don't know. I'm getting excited about the draft, though, guys. I really am. The rookie draft. There's a lot of talent. Like, people were down on this draft, and we're hyping up 2023, and I'm one of them. 2023's running back class is going to be amazing. It really is. Good to see you too, man. I appreciate that. 2023 is going to be a great class for the RBs, but we're starting to see 2022 may not be as bad as we were making it out to be. We've got a couple of elite receiver prospects at the top of this draft, and we're starting to see at least one legit high-end RB in Breece Hall. And I have faith that there's going to be quite a few really solid running backs that come out of this draft besides Hall. So aside from the quarterbacks being down, and if you're in a super flex, to me, the main guy to go grab will be Willis. Pickett, we'll find out. Is he a one-year wonder? Like, is he going to follow the same mold as a Joe Burrow? We'll find out. He's got a little bit of mobility, more athletic than you think. But aside from Willis, I'm probably not investing early first-round picks in any of these QBs, even in a super flex. But I am getting really excited about this draft. The more tape that you watch, the more you like these players. We mentioned the big two at receiver. Outside of them, we're talking George Pickens. We got Drake, Olave. Like, there's some really good receivers in this class that are going to be available, the back end of the first round, beginning of the second round. That can make a huge difference for our teams. And we're starting to see running backs flap these boards too. I think this class is going to end up being really nice. And I think the value in this class, especially in Superflex, are those early second round picks. If you can get between like picks 2-1 and like 2-5, I think there's going to be a lot of value there. I really do. More so than in years past. And that's typically that sweet spot. Like, you can grab those picks for kind of on the cheap. They're not first round picks, but they present that type of upside. Let me see what's going on. So Drake, you missed it. I'm all about Edmonds. Edmonds is one of my guys. I was hyping Edmonds up last season. I think McDaniel in that offense, I think Edmonds has a really good chance. Like, we've seen that type of offense employ these running backs. Edmonds is great catching the ball. He hit a really nice, 5.5 yards per carry last season. He hit a lot of nice advanced metrics. And to me, McDaniel getting in that offense, I mean, they gave him $6 million this year in guaranteed money. It's $12 million over 2 seasons. I like Edmonds. I think he's a solid RB2. He's an RB2 with an RB3 price tag. Kirk is a definite weird one right now. Kirk got paid so much money, it's crazy. I don't know how they justify that in Jacksonville. Like, how do you pay Christian Kirk 4 seasons for $84 million max? That's crazy, man. Mike says 1 QB league. Connor Stafford 1.9 for Javonte Williams. Enough. Mike, do you have Javonte? Because I'm not taking that trade if you got Javonte. Now, if the Javonte manager is sending that to you, I'm snapping that up. I'm a rebuilder with Galladay and Julio. Any thoughts on what I might be able to get for them? Galladay and Julio, I mean, with Julio, honestly, I'm dangling him out. If you're in a rebuild, you can't be tied down to any of these vet players. That's number one. In a rebuild, everybody should be available. If you've got like a really high-end stud, young, and I mean really them, but in terms of running backs, tight ends, like, they're gone. Especially those older guys. I build around my tight ends and my receivers. If I'm in a rebuild, everybody else is absolutely gone. So Galladay, Julio, if you can get a 3rd or 4th round pick each, and I'm being generous with that at this point, if you can get a 3rd or a 4th rounder for Galladay or Julio, I'm just taking it and moving on, cutting my losses. I mean, Julio is 33, 34 years old at this point. Could he have one of those crazy Larry Fitzgerald seasons that we've seen in the past where Fitz, was 34, 35 years old to put up a great season? Absolutely. Julio's a Hall of Fame player, generational talent. But the chances of that happening at this point, I don't see it. And then Galladay. I mean, he was great in Detroit for a few seasons. Has been absolutely injury riddled. Same deal. If someone wants to buy the hype, let them do that. Take a 3rd round pick and start accumulating more draft picks and more young talent on your team. In a rebuild, you have to really just break it down to the studs. Which wide receiver you want to own on the Giants? I mean, it's got to be Tony. To me, it's got to be Tony. Like, I keep going back to the one play last year, and maybe it's foolish of me. If Tony's healthy, I think Tony is going to be an electric player. And that one play that I'm referencing is when he absolutely cooked Diggs in that game against Dallas. And it was like that breakout game that Tony had. And Diggs was great all last season. And the route that Tony ran that absolutely broke Diggs' ankles right then and there, I was like, sweet Jesus, man. Seeing him make that move, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. If I got to pick one receiver from the Giants, I'm picking Tony. That's who I'm going with. Crooked Eye said none of them. Crooked Eye, you're not taking any of them, man? You got to take at least one. What NFL draft scenarios would you take Malik Willis over Garrett Wilson? So, cancel this. So to me, I mean, that's a different scenario. If we're talking about a super flex, then I think pretty much any scenario where Willis is a first round, top 15, top 16 pick any scenario, I'm probably going to take Willis just based on it being a super flex, you know. But we see if we see Willis fall, back end of the first, early second, which I just don't see that happening. I think someone's going to take the chance on his talent. I mean, I'm snapping him up. But in a 1 QB league, it's going to be Wilson all day. We're not going to place that type of value. Like in a 1 QB league, Willis is going in probably the probably mid, late second, early third in a 1 QB league. But in a super flex, I don't see Willis based on what he brings to the table, his rushing ability. You guys have to remember, this is a player from day one. Like we've seen what Jalen Hurts did in garbage time, right? Was absolutely terrible. And Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. If Willis goes in the top 15, top 16 picks, someone is investing an early first round on him. He's going to get 4 or 5 seasons to prove it. And from day one, he's going to have a 1,000-yard season probably out of the gate. His first season, rushing the ball. Like he has that type of upside. The thing about Willis is, again, he's not polished, but this is all the same stuff that we heard before. Like we heard Pat Mahomes wasn't accurate. We heard, Lamar Jackson couldn't throw the ball. We've heard all of this stuff, and it's all been proven wrong. They have to get to the right system. They have to get to the right coaching. To me, Willis, man, like his upside is just too hard to pass up in a super flex. If you're picking at 4 or 5 and Willis is sitting on the board and you're choosing between him or Wilson, I think you have to take Willis. I really do. So if it's Burks or Willis, Burks to me is the 1-1 right now, right? Like that's my 1-1. I love Burks. I think he's going to be a really good player right away. I think he brings wide receiver 1 upside. So to me, I'm probably rolling with Burks, right? Because I'm going to take the chance on Burks being that safe, low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2, pretty quickly into his career. So I'm going to probably roll with Burks regardless. But to me, Willis is right there. Like I said, I have Willis in the top 3 right now in Superflex rookie rankings. It's Burks, it's Breece Hall, and it's Willis to me. Those are the clear top 3. And then after that, I have my Spiller and I have Wilson. The thing about Wilson, though, too, like I've said it earlier, I know you're just getting in, but Wilson to me has some boom or bust to him. Like he's got elite talent and elite skills. Like going up and getting the ball, like he's great at doing that. He's amazing. He can go up and make some great catches. He's got great speed. But will he clean up that route running? His footwork, those are his biggest issues to me. I wouldn't be mad if someone going Hall at at number 1. I just like to build around my receivers. I've told you guys that multiple times. I like to stack up that receiver room, that tight end room. Running back is the last thing that I address. That's me, though. It's the last position I'm really going to go out and invest in. I want to build up those receivers, those tight ends, that quarterback room, and I put the cherry on top of the sundae with my running backs. That's just how I've always operated. Let me get back in. What's going on, Bobby? How are you? Joe said Julio and Galloway for Ridley. I'm doing that deal. If I've got Julio and Galloway, I'll take a chance on Ridley right now. I'll take a definite chance on Ridley right now. I mean, his value is so low, and I've said that to multiple people. Like, his value is so low right now, obviously having the mental health stuff, not having the gambling stuff, being suspended for the season. If you can get him for, probably like a mid-third round pick, probably, to the owner who has Ridley on his team, who got burned last season, where he absolutely just left in the middle of the season, and then now was burned again this year where he's gone all season. If you approached him with a mid-third round pick and maybe a young skill guy, like a flyer type player, they're probably going to take it. There's quite a few of them that are going to take it because they're just so disgusted with the situation. You have to value Gallup, as the wide receiver 2 that he is in that offense. We touched on it earlier. Gallup, to me, as long as he stays healthy, that's his big if. If he's healthy, he's going to be a wide receiver 2, right? If he's not healthy, though, that wide receiver 3 in Dallas is the player to really grab for me because Gallup's value is going to be so high right now. Whoever ends up locking down that wide receiver 3 role in Dallas is the player for me to go grit this offseason in that offense. And I say that because we've seen historically that wide receiver 3 in Dallas produce. They move the ball around. With the Gallup's injury history, that's the player I'm going to go target. What's the best you move Clyde for on a win-now team? So, Drake, do you have Clyde? I want you to clarify that for me a little bit. If you've got Clyde and you're on a win-now team, obviously you're going to want somebody that can help you this season, right? But to me, Clyde is one of those players that his value is so low right now, I don't think it's smart to really move him. I think he's a guy to go get if you can. Again, because his value is low. These are like the calculated risks that we have to take. Before he got hurt beginning of the season, he was playing okay. He was playing pretty good. And then he got hurt and he was never able to bounce back. So this is a player, they have a lot of draft stock into him. Let's see. His value is extremely low right now. They haven't been able to use him like they wanted to. The good thing on that is he's not racking up a bunch of hits and mileage on that body. So we'll see. I think this season is going to be his make or break year. If you're in a win now situation and you have him on your team, you're probably better off just holding on to him right now because his value is so low. Like you're not going to get the type of return that's really going to help you, versus the potential of CEH turning the corner this season and getting back to where he was at the beginning of last year. See. Ty, would you move Kyler for Watson if it presented itself? I've been debating it lately. Do you prefer Kyler over Watson? I think if you take all things and make them all the same and take away Watson's off-field stuff, if we're being honest, you have your choice between Watson and Murray, it's Watson. Right? That's for me. It's going to be Watson. With his off-field stuff, I know some people who won't touch Watson because of the off-field stuff. I know some people that won't let Joe Mixon on their team because of his off-field stuff, right? So it's really going to be up to you on how you're going to approach that. I think in terms of a pure fantasy perspective, give me Watson. That's just from a pure fantasy. Who do I think has the higher upside? Give me Watson. Let's see. Yeah, Drake. So if you're competing and you're a win now, you could be off him, and you might want to just move off of him. All that, I get it. He's been a disappointment, but I think you have to keep Clyde right now and let him hopefully reestablish his value. There's what are you really gonna get? Maybe a mid-second round pick, late second round pick from someone. At that point, I'm just gonna keep him and let's see what happens. A package that I'd trade for Watson right now without knowing where he's going to go. If I'm looking to acquire Watson, well, let me say if I'm looking to move him. I think it's easier to answer that. If I had him, what would I want for him? If I had Watson, and we're talking Superflex here, Chris. If we're talking Superflex, I'm going to want a top probably 5 pick in this draft, coupled with a downgrade at quarterback. Say mid-tier quarterback, maybe just a mid QB2. And then I'm probably going to ask for at least a high upside young skill guy. Nobody who's absolute stud, who's already gone out and proved it, but maybe someone who had capital draft stock within the last couple of drafts that just hasn't proven it. That's going to be the minimum starter for me. I'm going to need a QB downgrade, a top 4 or 5 pick this draft, and at least one high upside young skill guy. And that's the minimum. You have to remember, though, if you're trading Watson away right now, the risk that the other team is taking on. His value is not going to be, even though he's avoided criminal charges, his value is not going to be where it's going to be at in a year from now if he holds tight and he does what he has to do to, repair his image. Teams especially for me, I'm not going to sit here and give the bag if that guy's got that stuff hanging over his head, because all it's going to take is one mess up. If Watson's out somewhere and one allegation comes against him, he is going to be in a world of trouble. So for me, I have to factor that in when I'm making these trades. I can't sit here and willingly just give up the farm for Watson. I'll give a solid package, but I'm not giving up what it would be in maybe a season or two after he's repaired himself and his public image. Because right now, he's not going to have any benefit of the doubt. Joe said being an ethical fantasy owner is too much work for him. I'm with you, Joe. I'm with you. I know guys like that though, man. I know people who will not draft, like Joe Mixon due to the violence against women. I just know people who will not touch players like that. Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes, what is the package you would have to have in a super flex? I mean, you'd have to have the moon and the stars to move off of Allen or Mahomes in a super flex league. I mean, you have such an advantage over everyone else. And especially if you start getting into these QB, like these bonus leagues, right? Because some leagues are just obviously standard scoring, but we have some leagues where QBs and just everybody gets bonus points for completions and total yardage and stuff like that. You know, you'd have to come at me with another QB1 plus something else. Like I'd have to have a QB1 plus at least an early to mid first round pick with wide receiver 2 to move off of that. Like I would need a lot to move off of Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen right now in a super flex. 12 team super flex. Correct myself. Some teams I'm noticing are playing in a 10-team Superflex league, and that makes no sense. That kind of defeats the purpose of a Superflex. Don't do that. Superflex is supposed to make that QB position so viable. If you're only playing with 10 teams, though, I mean, there's plenty of talent to go around. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, though, guys, this offseason, man. It's just getting started. We'll see what happens with the draft. Yeah. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I'm going to try to do lives now every week. My wife, this is just a little snippet into what's going on with me. You guys are here. If you're new, you may not know this, but about 5-6 weeks ago, got promoted. Got a completely different schedule at work. I was able to do a lot more before. That's starting to calm down. And now my wife's weekly after school job thing has kind of stopped. Today's the last day for it, thank God. Because the moment I would get home, I had 3 small children running up to me and ready to just absolutely tear me apart. So I'm going to have a little bit of help now during the weeks when I do get home from work. So I'm going to ramp up the channel a lot more. So if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's going to be a lot of Dynasty content coming up. So hopefully to get on a schedule with these lives. I know they've been kind of random right now. Thinking about probably doing like Mondays from like 8 to 10 weekly. I kind of like that day. Can sit here and break it down at least until the season starts for Monday Night Football. So if you guys got any questions, any Dynasty related questions, rookie draft stuff, fantasy stuff, free agency stuff, drop them down below. I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes. Wait to see if any more questions come in. I want to make sure I get to everyone. Let me know how your off seasons are going, guys. Like, are you locking down trades? Like, what are you doing right now? Like, who are you guys targeting? Jeremy just said, are you in on Cam Akers? So, Jeremy, to me, Cam Akers, right? Like, he did not look great, obviously, coming back from the Achilles injury. But it was also a damn Achilles injury. And that's historically been a running back killer. But from what we've seen, like the fact that he was even able to come back the same season is a miracle in and of itself, right? So Cam, I think you have to be in on him. Anyone who has that type of determination, you know, that dedication to the game that they can get themselves back, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to give Cam the benefit of the doubt right now. I worry, though, if he gets off to a slow start, people are going to be selling him, I believe, for pennies on the dollar. And I think that's the window to go and get Cam. If you don't have him already, I think that's going to be your window. You kind of need to hope that he has a slow start, right? If he gets off out of the gate and it's not looking good first 4 or 5 weeks, he is 100% going to be one of the players I'm going to be throwing offers at. Because I don't expect him to be, you know, full strength until not even next season, probably the year after that for Cam. Achilles injuries are a terrible injury, right? Like that's something that just ends careers. So to me, Cam is a guy, if you've got him, you have to hold him. If you don't have him, right now it's not the time to get him. Wait till the season starts. Hope that he gets off to a slow start just based on, building up strength in that leg, coming back from that injury, and try to grab him then. I've seen a couple of comments that just chopped in. What would you have to receive for Waddle? All right, Chris, so if you got Waddle and someone try to trade for him, I mean, I know. Here's the thing about Waddle. I know he's got Tua, right? I believe that Tua's going to have a decent season. McDaniel's there. I think that offense is going to be catered to him, all of that. And we seen what Waddle did last season playing with Tua, and Tua was playing for a coach who did not want him, right? Like that's been, out of everything that's come out, that's been perfectly clear that Flores did not want Tua. So to me, Waddle is 100% a Dynasty wide receiver 1, top 12 receiver in Dynasty. He's going into his second season. Sky's going to be the limit. He's only going to get better. I would need an absolute haul. We're talking a top 3 pick this season to move Waddle plus. Like I'm going to need a top 3 pick this season, and I'm going to need at least a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 coming back. And that's minimum. That's to get the conversation started. I think Sky is going to be the limit for Waddle. Let's see what else. Drake said, I'm thinking of moving off the 1-3 and more for Javonte. Is he too expensive to pursue? Javonte's probably getting to that point now because of Russ being there, and all the pressure that's going to take off of Javonte. He was great last year, as a rookie. And the fact that Russ is there and those receivers, they're going to be able to spread teams out more. Javonte's probably going to have a blow-up season. I expect top 3, 4 running back numbers from Javonte. So if you've got the 1-3, and you're going to have to add to that, but whatever it is that you have to add for Javonte Williams, if you're in a win-now situation, that might be a move to make. I see Javonte really taking a step forward this season. Changes everything in that offense. Absolutely everything. Everybody gets a boost with Russ being there. You said the owner wants Lamb in return for Javonte, but it defeats the... Yeah, we're not doing that. I need someone to build around for the long haul. We build around our receivers and our tight ends. Elite tight end. We do not build around running backs. Let's see. Yeah, Mike, he's too expensive at that point. Bearded Native, what's up, buddy? You sold Waddle mid last season for Elijah Moore, Gallup, and Tony. I couldn't pass up the trade, but still feel dirty doing it. I mean, Elijah Moore is going to be a really good player. Like Elijah Moore towards like the mid end of the season, he was blowing up, man. And Elijah Moore was one of those guys before the draft last year. Just watching his tape, he just has a dog in him. Like you could just watch him play. He's really, really good. And I think he's going to be really good for a while. So I don't think he did bad on that. Again, I would feel dirty too, though, trading Waddle. Those type of young stud receivers like that, those are those building blocks that you don't move. When you get guys like that, you just plant them on your roster and you don't trade them till they're 28, 29 years old. Enjoy those 6, 7 seasons of elite wide receiver 1 production. Those are players that you can plug and play. You know what you're going to get out of them. Every single week, you're going to get production. And that's hard to find. And if you can stack 2 or 3 of those guys up in your receiver room, even the better. But Waddle, to me, that's one of those guys, man. I'm not moving off of him. Waddle, the Jamar Chases, CeeDee Lambs, Jefferson, those type of players, you got to keep them. Keep them and build around. Thanks, Bearded. Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been a crazy few weeks, man. I've been dealing with, I don't know if it was COVID or what, man. I've been sick for at least a week now. Have not been feeling well. Still don't feel great, but I'm here. What else can you be at this day and age? You just got to kind of mosey on through it. Got people all over the world struggling and suffering. Like I can get through whatever I got going on right now. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to be it, man. This phone is dinging. I think I got about 5% left. We've been at it for almost an hour and a half now. So again, we're going to start doing the lives on Monday nights, 8 to 10 moving forward. So we're going to give that a shot, see what it's like. If you're new here, I see we have 15, 16 people in and out. If you're new, you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button to the channel. There's a lot of content that's on the channel right now. If you're in a rebuild or just getting into Dynasty, go check out some of the older videos. A lot of strategy stuff. That's kind of what I built this channel around, a strategy. So yeah, that's probably going to be it, y'all. I appreciate you guys too. I'm seeing everybody out here. Appreciate you guys. So that'll be it. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to start ramping it back up. Got my free time back. So let's get it. You guys have a great week and stay safe. And let's see what this fantasy football offseason brings us. So, all right, everyone. I'm going to see you next time. Oh, Frank, thank you. I appreciate that, buddy.